Belinda Jane, here we are, episode number 5. Today's the big one. We've talked about money as a pillar of one of the elements of life, time, energy, and today love. Let me start by reading something to you, please. This is from the prophet Rumi. Whenever there is a strong lock used, there is something extremely precious hidden. The thicker the veil, the more valuable the jewel. A hoard of treasure is guarded by a large snake. Do not dwell on the snake. Contemplate the dazzling and the priceless things you'll discover in the treasure. That is love. And typically of Rumi, it's poetic and holds hidden meaning. Especially for me when I read that. Do not dwell on the snake, but contemplate what's inside. That suggests to go past our fear of love. So let me start by asking you, what exactly is love?
Many are carriers of falsehoods around this concept, around this idea. And if you feel back into millennia, time forever past, love has been the centre of poetry and songs, and then recently movies, and everything has been cast outside of the self more often than not. So the falsehood makes it extremely difficult for us to actually recognise the thing that I said in that first episode, that God, generating, organising, delivering our highest good, the glue that holds everything together, is love. It is, again, when I was talking about the sacred and I speak about the holy and I speak about love, to me, God, love, all of those things are the very same thing. You can't define one any more powerfully than the other. And so I speak about it, as you know, all of the time. And in my work, it feels and seems to me that all people are actually doing is paying me to love them, to show them that this is how easy it is so that they can get to that place on their own, by letting go of the illusions of what it's not, and by tuning into the fact that they are and carry it with them, and then by practicing that and recognising that they're the only ones that can bring it. It's not an external thing, it's an internal thing that they then project onto another. And so the imagining is, with our first love, our romantic love, that it is about the other. Right? And Carl Jung would say, that is just to entice us into doing our deeper work, as Rumi would say. And that quote from our book is, it shows you that not to be understanding it only as the trite and light, but to recognise it's evolving and enduring and eternal. It doesn't have a beginning and an end, but we can either stand in it and hold it as sacred and our own, or we stand beside it always watching and waiting and wondering if we'll ever have it, if it can ever be ours to keep and to hold and to be. When of course the truth is, which sets us free, we are that stuff.
Why do you think we have lost this sacred connection to what love is?
Because it's so simple. And we always look for everything to be so complicated and so complex, when really the essence of it is completely simple. And what we do when we incarnate, when we come to life, is to look for all of these examples of what it's not, so that we can land at what it is. We live in the earth plane, the school of relationships and polarity. Right? Everything is this relativity is a law, right, in the universe. So this as opposed to this instead of that, this in comparison to the other. And so that searching outside the self is very much our quest and our journey. So I'm not criticising or judging that in any way, but it won't be found that way. It's found by recognising, I'm not actually complete there. Although I've felt that with that man or that woman, how beautiful. And, no one could ever devalue that first love. I watched my children go through all of theirs and clearly experienced it myself. I still am connected with the man or the boy at that time that I first fell in love with. And it is a dizzying and intoxicating and real thing in that moment. But actually it's puppy love, right? And you learn that, but again, not devaluing, not saying that it's not real love for that moment and that age and stage. Then when a mother births a child, and she would stand almost straight after that birth, and she's crossed that bridge that we've spoken of from the maiden to the mother, and she would kill for that other human, right? That kind of fierce lioness is something that she hasn't experienced before. No woman has experienced that before becoming a mother. But that's not just it either. It's a frequency. So they're all experiences of it. And then the one that you marry, there's great philosophies around having 3 great loves. The love that you learn what love is, and the second one, what love isn't. And then finally that evolving, enduring, eternal one that I spoke about, that has the unconditional clause kind of wrapped around it because you've done all of the other external searching.
Yeah, that's really fascinating to me because, you speak about the what comes to mind is the searching outside. It's like the old line out of the movie, looking for love in all the wrong places. Yeah. I mean, if we arrive at that realization that we've spent our lives being disillusioned by our idea or our pursuit of love, and we've all been hurt or felt whatever we feel, and whether that's abandonment or whether that's rejection. I mean, that's part of the human condition. Now, you talk about the evolution of then the idea of unconditional love, and I'm dying to ask you, is this possible? We are, by definition, human beings. We live in a conditional existence. Mm. It's who we are. It's our nature. So this idea of unconditional love, surely even with the love of a child, we impose our own conditioning onto that relationship, do we not? So how is unconditional love? Is it just a concept? Is it a fleeting moment? What is it?
It's a concept and a fleeting moment and a real thing, right? So your child, when I was saying about the fierceness of a parent around, and especially I can only speak to mother love, it has got that enduring, evolving, eternal quality to it, but there are conditional moments within that. Doesn't mean that you would withdraw the undercurrent, that is that golden thread we were speaking about that weaves constantly through it. You may want to retract it every once in a while, but you never pull that rug completely out. I've spoken with women whose sons have killed someone, who's, really the most horrific stories. And these women will still visit the prisons. These women will be there the day, like in the States, the day that the executioner is around, who will be the one there, the mother. You can never tell the story that she won't say, but this is my son, right? So there's a level of definitely to it, right? It doesn't mean you don't attach to sacred rage. It doesn't mean that you're not afraid. It doesn't mean, in fact, it means all of those things. And that's where I feel, as you speak to the disillusionment of it, is that I think we've placed it a little bit unrealistically, that it can't be all of this, or it's not love. It can be all of that, and that is exactly what it is. And it bounces. It bounces in different phases and stages, but as I said to you, it's a consistent thread that runs through. When you first fall in love or you first marry, again, as I was saying, it doesn't mean they're not significant moments in your life and pinnacle moments in your life, right? And the music takes you back there, the movies that you saw, right? And they open the cells in your body to the realization that it is a real thing, and that's the journey. And then there's a moment that arrives and needs to arrive in the work where you recognize, I actually hold and carry this within myself. And I have been learning that by projecting it onto others and feeling it for others. But one of the great knowings that I've found in my practice is people are only able to love to the level, exactly to the level that they're able to accept, feel deserving and worthy and lovable within their own selves and psyche and self. And as soon as that dawned on me, so much about my marriage, so much about relationships or my relationships with my children, the pennies dropped. And that's only through experience, because it's the only teacher.
Oh, wow. Your work does go there a lot in terms of the idea of how deserving you are, whether that's deserving of time, deserving of money, the act of coming here to sit with you and to be in therapy with you, and which is a pursuit of growth. There's something's driving you to do that. So self-love is really, as you put it, the it's like the hidden key to this, isn't it?
Completely.
And yet, who talks to young people about this? Because our society, in a way, is set up to almost to fail, aren't they? You know, young people fall in love. They have this infatuation. They have this idea. You see it on social media now. People talk about their forever person. I mean, what does that mean? That term can only be used by someone who's so naive that they have no idea what lays ahead in life.
Absolutely.
And whilst it's and I'm not being disparaging at all, or trying to. If my daughter said that, I would try to give her perspective. It's a beautiful idea to have that innocence. Is just wonderful, and I guess it's what drives us forward. Because if we knew, if I knew what I know now, when I was that age, I probably wouldn't done I wouldn't ventured into a lot of things that ultimately were beautiful. I've had some beautiful relationships and encounters, and I guess that if we as a society can reposition the idea of love, and we should do more on this, because this is really fascinating to a lot of people, I bet, especially people that come and see you because they've completely disillusioned. So where am I going with this? I'm just I'm rambling now, so save me.
Well, we were talking about all of the things when we were speaking about conditions around love, like all of the things that it is not. Remember, it's defined differently by each individual person. So value and worth, when you're ready for it, when you're ready for the whole thing, when you feel, again, deserving and worthy for the whole thing, that's only when the frequency is set within you and the arrival happens. Do you know? It's the same with abundance with money. It's the same with the loving allowance with time. It's the same as where we focus then determines what happens next in our life with our energy. And this is no different at all. It's just, as I said, it's been wrapped around, there's a lot of new age concept around it. Commonly in our culture and society, again, it is placed outside the self. The same as God in religion is placed outside the self. So therefore it's out of our control. We're at its whim and, it's fancy more than something that absolutely is our power. It is our center. It waits really patiently within us for us to find it, for us to unfold it, and for us to really just rest in it. Which is why I say, and this takes time to get to, that God particle, the frequency and love are all one. And every single person that drops into hypnotic finds it. No one has never found it. And I think that's quite extraordinary as well, because I don't know when they walk through my door if that's what they feel they're coming for. But because, as I said, it is the glue that holds everything together, needless to say, that's where they arrive, because it heals everything. And if they are broken, it's the salve that will heal it. If they are wanting and waiting and looking outside for someone to heal and seal and solve, then it's inside saying you don't need this and this and this, because here you are.
Yeah, spot on. It's this goes back to something I listened to recently from Joe Dispenza, who I really like, and he talks about what you just spoke to me about, which is to the deserving and worthy part of you. If you can get that part right, and then you can effectively you raise your vibration. He's measured this. His team has measured this, and then you attract. People talk about attracting abundance, attracting the right people. What does that actually mean? But I think you've struck at it. If you can, and that's the key that I'm hearing. That if you can, and I've experienced this myself as well. you make a decision about what is worthy and deserving for you. And when you make that decision that, no, I'm more worthy, I'm more deserving than what I've been experiencing, that awareness alone is already a higher consciousness, correct?
Absolutely. And then you won't accept anything less than that. And that's where you start to ascend. That's where you begin to rise to a frequency that is aligned and divinely designed, because you've said no and you've said no. And as I keep on saying, that's not a bad thing. That needs to be said to 50% of the things that come our way, right? That teaches us to be discerning. It teaches us to value then. And everybody, as I said, there's things when we speak to the love languages, that's another fantastic way to make it really simple, which is our whole work. I feel that we've made everything too complex and too complicated. And what the love languages do, Gary Chapman, thank you, is to look at the ways in which right from when we incarnated, we can get a tingling through our bodies. This is love. I just know it to be a real thing, right? And
love languages, when I first came across that concept, and I think I talked about it in our facilitator work to you, it was like one of those moments of realization.
Yeah.
And do you remember when I said, this is amazing, everybody should get the love languages on the table at the first date, because it would save a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah, even children at school, like under 7-year-olds, if I was running the school system, they would be very focused on how they feel loved. And parents would be asking those questions. I have a really funny story about Indigo, my eldest daughter. She was the only one, I think I've had one client in all the thousands that I've seen that came even close. Indigo was 4 and I was practicing this work, and I said, how do you know Mummy loves you? Is it, and I felt to go, is it to rattle them off? And then I said, she looked at me quizzically and I said, gifts, when I buy you something, quality time, when I just want to be with you, words, when Mummy says, I love you, you're beautiful, you're so clever, acts of service, when I do the things that you love me to do for you, or when I cuddle you, touch. And she sat back in the lounge and she said, I know exactly, Mummy, I'll just have them all. And I went, no. You need to, because me at the beginning, fledgling part of the work, I'm going, you don't understand. You need to be choosing a primary and a secondary for me to write my work. And eventually now she's at 31, she's nutted them out. But I think, as I said, I've had one other client that said to me, they are all fabulous, I'll have them all. But ideally, they're a little bit of a special case. Ideally, people, when you say them, they roll around in their hearts, of course, because that's our love place. This is the chakra, the green chakra, right? The heart. So they'll roll, and I get them out of their head, and we do our breath, and they drop into here. And I have them close their eyes, and I say the love language, the options, and 9 out of 10 people will easily say, oh, that's definitely it for me. And I say, and what's the underscore or the cherry on the cake? And they'll have their secondary. And then if they can, firstly, when they're doing their inner child work, deliver it to themselves, but then next, speak to their children. How do you know Mummy or Daddy love you? But then their partner. Some people married 20, 30 years have never discussed what those things are, how they feel love, for what the essence of that thing is for them. So as we said at the beginning, it is just as unique as each individual part or particle of God is.
I mean, if you were able to articulate that at a meeting where you get together with someone that you do have a bit of a tingle with, and you think, yeah, there's something interesting, there's something nice happening here, I need to pay attention, and you get the love languages out of the way, and then if you can add to that,
you don't think that could be a bit heavy, a bit full on for a first date?
Well, if you think that's full on, layer onto that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Right. And then if you get a second date, you're in business.
Is that why you were anxious about it? God.
No, but it's probably why I'm single.
I have this other idea that, and it's so firmly entrenched in me now because I've had a lot of time to consider and to listen to these many, privileged to listen to many, many people, is that the formula too, and I get in trouble every time I say this, so prepare yourself, that there is quite a male way and there's quite a female way, you know, the feminine and the masculine. Now, when I say that around gender, it's not a man and a woman necessarily, it's the roles, the gender roles. So, you know, my beautiful gay men, there's one that definitely prefer the loving frequency of the feminine, of the yin particle, and then they'll often attract a partner that's more yang, but they're gay. So that's the thing where people get all very bent out of shape when I discuss this so unequivocally, but I really have seen it and I really do believe it. So I feel the male way. So in dating, I say to my women, do not give anything up and over. Let the man, hard on the sleeve, find his way, because men process things in linear time. And women have been trained and taught, there's all these courses online about kind of the rushing, you know, the rushing in with the expectations. I feel like the ones that sit back and that the man is allowed to find his heart and decide and do the work. I mean, there's scientific studies that this actually works. That's how he develops his attraction. He develops his want to protect and provide and keep her safe and secure over time. Whereas women will get an instinct about it. They'll drop right into it. And I say to my women, do nothing. Stop there. Just wait and enjoy those rushes, as you say, and allow him to unfold and do the work so that he feels as though it's actually, they quite like the challenge. They quite like, I've actually got this to this place. I've penetrated, directed, wasted my energy, found my way, and now look where we've arrived. It's a beautiful thing for a man, and women often usurp that and take it away. I mean, I've been guilty of that, for sure. And then you don't really know that they're yours and that they've arrived at the place that they need to be, more often than not, but also the place that you need to receive. So I feel like we need to learn to take things way more low and slow in the love dance. And in the recognition that it's all right, yeah? And that we're defining the things that we love by the things that we don't love, the things we allow by the things we will no longer allow. And that's actually, again, an experience that you have over time. And each relationship, you know, I have another big fast rule that I say to people, very bossy, as you know. In the 20s, you have these 3 great loves and relationships. And these are not the ones that are the 3 that you settle on for your marriage either. These are like the one you sort of late teens, early 20s. So you're coming out of your 3rd pillar in our work, 3rd tank. And then there's another one around the mid, you know, could last a couple of years. Then I say to everyone to have a break, and depending on the personality type, some do and some don't. The ones that take a break tend to drop in and give themselves time to connect to that particle. Whether they know that that's the generator, organizer, deliverer of their highest good or not is irrelevant. It's just a longing for themselves, a self-yearning that just helps them be more clear and discerning. And then that lucky last one is an arrival place, and I've got someone in our family at the minute about to marry, and you can feel it viscerally around these people, the evolving, the eternal. It's got an everlasting essence to it. And I can often, as I've said to you before, I couldn't pick it in my own marriage, but I can certainly now in my work, listening to people first 10, 15 minutes, I can say whether it's going to work or not, whether it's going to last or not, but the thing is, nothing really lasts forever. Everything grows, evolves and changes. So even if it lasts 10 or 20 years, incredible power or disempowerment has occurred in that time that's a stepping stone to our growth of what we will and won't accept, who we are, who we're not, who the other person is, who they're not. So nothing is wasted, nothing is for nothing in this love dance.
Yeah, I mean, nothing is for nothing. Yeah, you're right. I want to talk about. I want to take this in a slightly different direction. In the book, Conversations with God, which you gifted to me, I read one of the most profound concepts, and it was the message to the author, which was simply this: every decision we make come from two places, and you know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Either fear or love. And I put the book down for a few weeks to think about that one, and that's what that book's like. It's incredible, but that really stood out for me, and I keep thinking about that constantly, and viewing my own life and thinking, could it really be that simple, that we go through life, and every important decision we make, it's either comes from a basis of fear, and you could. So what's on the fear side? Lack.
Everything we're not.
Everything we're not
is on the fear side.
That's great. Yeah.
So, and on the love side, love feels easier. Love is lighter. Love feels that everything's going to be all right, like a mother's love. You know, everything is going to be all right. It'll settle. You'll be safe. You know, you can feel the essence of it as you practice your way through life, right? But there's only that one way or the other that you can go. And when you're in one, you're not in the other.
So just a thought again. If we tell a lie, why do people lie? And I think about this a lot. And you know, that's one of my strongest values is the truth. And when you really explore it, and I was talking to my son, my 16-year-old son, about it just a few days ago. Why the truth is so important? It's because firstly, why do people lie? What motivates you to lie? It's fear.
Yep.
Fear of an outcome, or you're being deceitful, which I suppose is then why you're being deceitful. It goes back to the fear side of that idea. On that balance sheet. So if you're lying out of fear and making decisions that they're not in your highest interest, are they? So in other words, you're not honouring yourself. So if you're making decisions through love, so if you're courageous and if you're, say, truthful in a situation, and you make a decision at that moment to tell the truth and be fearless about telling the truth, what you're actually doing is honouring a higher version of yourself, aren't you?
Absolutely. And it feels better. That's how you know, when you say it, how do you know it? It feels better to be authentic, to tell the truth. You know, my mum used to say that beautiful expression about when you first practice, oh, what a wicked web we weave when first we practice to deceive, because one little lie leads to another big lie, then you have to recount and remember, and then you start to spiral down into everything that you're not. And that's how we actually end up in hell. That's what the hell hole that we speak about, that hell on earth is that disconnection from the whole, from the lightness in your being, which is where and what love is. It's a frequency, right? So anytime you lie and deceive, you're actually dropping through and further away from that place. But there are people that are compulsive liars that actually believe their own stories, they've told themselves the lie so many times, and they can be men and women of integrity, right? But they have told themselves this because it had to be true for these actions to have taken place. There has to be justification for this. So they land at a place where they can feel validated, right? In that, and it is a deceptive frequency and vibration. And then what will attract to them over time, not necessarily, and this is the law of karma, more of that deceit will come to them. But as you would
and the law of attraction as well, which is what we were talking about earlier.
As you put it out, so you get back. And this is the purity of love. As you practice it, you need to be quite brave and courageous to practice love, because we've been taught, as I said at the beginning today, that it's that what could possibly go wrong. You know, so many things could possibly go wrong, but focusing on the frequency of this thing in its most pure form, let us now focus on what could possibly go right in it, because it's such an awesome experience. It's so all-encompassing, and it does attract more of itself. You know, I think about even from a little new baby, and you smile at that baby and that baby smiles straight back at you, that first kind of soul kiss that you get, there's nothing like that. They know that already is love. right? Nobody needed to teach them that thing, that smiling and looking into your eyes. They completely are just a bundle of love. That's who they are. And then we unfold it in my view, a way too complex and complicated way. And I'd speak about love all the time, 10 times a day.
Well, I could think of it like that we are debasing the perfection of that newborn, aren't we?
Well, we're showing it that who they are isn't enough, and that's the saddest thing. We're often putting the round peg through the square hole rather than just helping them define and decide what's already eternally existing within them just by being born, just by being here. They're perfect exactly as they are. And how would you like to experience love? Like, how does it feel very best to you? And off they go.
And that keeps coming back to the idea of your self-worth, worthy and deserving. And, again, we've mentioned this, or I've mentioned this before, Carl Jung's Shadows, where he says that the idea as children that we are somehow not enough, that creates in our psyche, in our persona. We embrace that, we start to believe that. And so that sets us up, I suppose, for down the track with how deserving and worthy am I of money, of love, of someone else's time, and, success in life. So, and to circle back around to what Joe Dispenza was saying, that if you have, because he's saying if you raise that frequency, you're then attracting different things into your life. So this idea of, this mysterious kind of, idea of manifesting or creating your own reality, and what does that actually mean? I think this is probably the most solid conversation I've heard that we're having right now about the idea based around love. That if you understand and come to terms with your own self-worth and how deserving you are, of course you'll attract different people, because you'll change. The way you walk through life will change, the way you carry yourself. Therefore, you'll become more attractive, whereas previously you might be invisible to that person.
And the difference too, you're no longer looking for it, you actually are it. You are what you're looking for. Do you know? And you've connected to the thing that you're looking for, so it can't help but really find you, because it's of the like stuff, right? And like, it really does attract like in that way. And because it rolls, in my view, through everything and we don't even know it. It's in all of nature. It's in all of life's creations. And we were the ones born with choice. You can choose to feel it or not. So, you can spend your life longing for something, or give up the fight of longing for something, when really there it is in your heartbeat, right? There it is in everything that operates. You feel into the body itself, the miraculous, mechanics of this amazing organic being, where the heart's beating for itself, where the digestion's, no one telling it what to do, the mind processing, the hair growing, the skin exfoliating, like everything. You sleep, you rest, you rise. And if that kind of process and care is not love, I don't know what is, right? You're flowing through your own body. You're flowing through, pumping your own heart. It's all happening effortlessly. It's really simple. And that's the divinity of it.
Yeah, but as you often point out, simple but not easy.
But the process in the body is easy. But the process when we pop it outside ourselves, all of a sudden not so much. It gets convoluted when we complicate it.
No, that's fascinating. So when somebody comes to see you, and I want to talk about your work for a few minutes, this is the fourth pillar now that we've... there are more podcasts to come, but we've now sort of explored and just touched on really the essential four pillars of the elements of life, the program that you've spent more than 30 years developing, and it's a question that I can only ask now and not in previous podcasts, because now that we've got those four foundational pillars and we've discussed those, and we've touched on this sort of golden thread that weaves all this together. So, client comes to see you, and their life's a bit topsy-turvy, to put it nicely. And they walk out, 6 weeks later, and they've had really an infusion of the wisdom that we've only touched on in the last few weeks, but they've done it in a process of hypnotic, which for people who are confused about that idea, what would you... I mean, I simplify it sometimes to say it's like meditation, but a bit more effective.
Yeah, well, it's. I think I did speak to this in the first episode. The difference between meditation and hypnotic is that meditation, and beautiful in and of itself, it is a process where I imagine that people walk into the water and they're up to their ankles, their knees, they're, into this warm water, and off they go, and then eventually they go in and under to themselves. With hypnotic, you're kind of beside yourself, and then you drop into the plunge pool of that complete moment of everything and nothingness, which is where all your answers lie. So I've also heard it compared. A couple of clients have said to me it's a massage for your soul. Some clients have said it is every answer that they've ever sought. I mean, people, I've certainly no one has ever looked and viewed it as a negative experience. It's the connection between your higher self channeled through your own body. And it's the essence of your own understanding of that. So your own understanding of what love is, or what God, life force, source, what that really means to you. And people only come to me when they're really ready for that, which is why we're now, able to offer the course online, because then people will only be attracted to that, which have the ones that have suffered enough and they're ready to change.
Who will know more can no longer.
Yeah, and then we've got, the letting go of everything you're not, which is pretty much what we were speaking about today. That's how you decide where you are, by what you're not. And they will come with, this is what I don't like, this is what I don't want. And so then we move those off the table. And it's interesting, as soon as that you shift, up comes and rises who you are, who you actually are. And just the connection of that by letting go of what you're not is the first stepping stone. The next one is the inner child work. So that's called tuning in and recognizing the body as the barometer of your feelings, and that everyone has a different frequency that they operate on that they need to really come to terms with. And as bossy as I am, I can't tell them what that is. They need to find and decide and connect and learn to love that themselves. And everything kind of comes from there. Lots comes out around that time.
The inner child work that when I did it with you, not the first time, but through the facilitator work that we were doing together, to me the understanding of that, and perhaps because I was, I'd started reading Jung at the time, but it to me it was the most succinct realization of myself, being able to witness myself in those different ego states, and then the penny dropped and I understood everything.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that I don't. So if my simple example is my teenage son triggered me a couple of months ago, as teenagers will do, but I realized almost immediately that what he was triggering was not me as his father, but myself as a child. Mm. And I immediately went and discussed that with him, and I felt so much remorse because I'd snapped at him, and at that moment I felt I'd let myself down, but also learned something about myself which was enormous in terms of my capacity to control my emotions and to see it for what it is. We need to do a podcast just on that. I think we've spoken about that. Can we do one on letting go as well?
Absolutely.
There's no shortage of material, is there? certainly not from my experience anyway. I'm a work in progress, perhaps
I think we all are, and I think that's the thing about love, right? You can never experience all of it.
I mean, we need to finish in a minute, but this idea of life mastery. I think your work really nails it, and it's very, very, very succinct, and it's beautiful work. I highly recommend it. I have been doing the work for a long time, and it's become part of my life. As I always say, once you see something, you can't unsee it. and that's part of becomes part of your toolbox. So I'm excited about getting what we're doing and getting this out to for the highest good of anybody who's seeking their own personal truth, authenticity, the relationship with themselves. So I've learned something today about love, Belinda Jane, and so I'll finish by saying I love you, and thank you so much, and namaste.
Thank you so much. Yep, I love you. And everything that we've spoken to, there would have been moments in time, even in the 10 or 20 concepts that we ran through, a penny will drop and they will recognise that part in themselves. And that is our work.
What a great place to finish.